Let me talk a bit about some of the materials you'll find on that the wonderful library that Adam's been talking about. And until now, you've really had to hunt around the web and find things at random. This is a great new tool, but a few words of advice as to what you will find. Most of the things that are out there in the green leases marketplace are produced by somebody with a point of view. The point of view may be that of a trade association or an entrepreneur or of a nonprofit association, but they all come to this with a different mentality in mind. And most of them, because landlords are the ones who use leases, most of them come with a pro-landlord mentality. There are some exceptions, as you'll see here on the slide, and we'll talk about that as we move forward through the program as well. The clause Adam mentioned is one of the newer ones, the I call it the revenue clause. It really only addresses the split incentive issue. That is, who pays for the cost of capital improvements that make the building operate better. It does not generally green the lease. The rest of the lease is untouched by this. And it does impose certain costs on the tenant on the theory that these costs are for the tenant's benefit and therefore it should be paying. However, I take a somewhat cynical view of the clause that it is landlord generated by the Real Estate Board of New York. You'll notice that the tenant pays capital expenses based on projected savings, not actual savings, that the person making the projection is an independent expert engaged by the landlord. And so you can see that the clause has some issues in it that a tenant might not like very much. So there are ways to amend the clause and to deal with it, but nevertheless, just be aware of its point of view. The clause builds on a great study done by an NRDC task force on which I served a few years ago that tried to address the split incentive issue. I have come to the conclusion over the years, as we have moved away from what Bob Peck of GSA calls green bling, which is the idea that the way to green buildings is to glom improvements onto them, add physical things, add infrastructure, add mechanical systems. As we moved away from that to realizing you can green a building in an intrinsic way just from operations, the importance of adding all this bling or all these capital items diminishes some. So it's entirely possible that the importance of the split incentive issue will diminish over time, particularly as more and more buildings and more contractors and designers and other professionals learn how to do green and the costs come down. So we're hoping that we move to a world where the split incentive may still exist but not be that important. And it sort of reminds me of the old TV show Home Improvement, starring Tim Allen, where he played the character of Tim the Toolman Taylor, and his solution to every problem was just to add horsepower to it. In a sense, although obviously here we're trying to reduce horsepower in a way, in a sense it's the same idea. There's a mechanical solution to every problem and it's expensive. Well, that's not necessarily the case. If you remember the show at all, every time he did something it blew up in his face, literally. So maybe the same is true here.